am a game developer, and I have been a game developer for a while. Like, ever since middle school, this has been my main hobby. This is what I want to do in life. And as such, I have made a lot of games. And some of them are a lot better than others. So, I'm going to take this time to just go through every, roughly, game that I've made. I kind of just rank them and see how I feel about them, you know, divorced from the development process this many years on, or in some cases, a lot more recent. I do have videos on a lot of these games as well. You can find my itch.io page linked in the description below. So if any of these kind of pique your interest, feel free to just give them, you know, a shot and either, you know, play them or watch the video that went with it if you feel like it. I know, shameless self-promotion out of the way, but let's just get right into the ranking. So first up on the tier list here, we have my old Scratch games. This is how I got my start with game development. You know, getting introduced in like computer class in middle school is what made me realize that I enjoy computer programming, and I'll always have a special place in my heart for Scratch because of that. Now that being said, these games aren't very good. Like, I will not sit here and lie to you and say that anything I made in Scratch is some like hidden masterpiece. I don't regret making any of these, obviously. They were very important to like me becoming a game developer and like finding the passion for it. But if I were to just play these as like actual games, they would not be very fun. I think giving it the credit of these were like my earlier games, and I am proud of them for like what it did for me. I'm gonna give it C tier because I can't like justify giving them F. Like, that just feels too harsh. And next up we have Gorefield the game. Now this is another Scratch game, however I'm ranking it a little bit differently because I spent way more time on this game than I did on anything else in Scratch. And this was essentially like my dream game. So when I was, younger, a wee lad, I remember finding this video called Gorefield Game Boy. And it was just this like fake horror game about Gorefield and like him like mutating into this monster. But here's the thing, is it was just like an animation. It wasn't like an actual game. And I remember just being like so enthralled by it. And like I really wanted to have that game. And I thought, hey, I use Scratch. Maybe I can do it. Now, I didn't at the time like have the expertise to make that reality come true, so I kind of waited on it for a while. And then when I was showing like the earlier Scratch games, I started working on this remake of the first Legend of Zelda. And after getting like a bunch of development done on that, I was like, oh my god, this is all of the stuff I want for Gorefield. And so that's what I did. I started working on Gorefield. And I worked on it for a while. I think it was like a year or two I was working on this. And there was this like open world Gorefield horror game and like this Game Boy style. And I loved it. This was my dream game. I wrote my college essay about this game and I got in. Gorefield got me into college, and like that's not like a lie. So like this game is very important to me. Now looking at it like on like the merits of being an actual game and not like my biases, it's buggy. The visuals are a mess, but it is fun. There's a lot of content here. There's like 15 bosses. There's a bunch of items, and not all of them are useful. There's like 2 or 3, like absolute meta ones, and then the rest you do not have to touch. But there's still a lot of content, and I still find it like very enjoyable. Like, I like this game, like flaws and all. Like this game got me into college. I don't think I can justify giving it anything lower than S tier. That's just what it is for me. This is the game I have made, despite it, you know, being a buggy and ugly Scratch game. And it's really easy too. Like, I didn't find it challenging at all going back, but I love this game. This is also my most successful game today, and I do have it like on my itch.io page, so it is like somewhat divorced from Scratch, even though it is made in it and you can kind of tell. But I love this game. Next up we have The House Always Wins. This was the first game I made in Godot, and it was made for the GMTK Game Jam. I forget what year, but it was over like 2 days. I made this in an engine that I didn't really know how to use, and it is very apparent. The UI is not like properly set to go to the front of the screen. Like, things can overlap it. The gameplay, there's not much to it. Like, it's enjoyable for like the first like 30 seconds, but it gets very repetitive very quickly. The mechanics, very simple. The graphics are acceptable, but it's very buggy as well. Like, sometimes, like, hit registration just stopped working at a certain point. The die can just bounce out of the map. The die also doesn't randomly roll. It's like a set animation, and it always rolls a 6. And the idea itself is just kind of weird, and I don't know really what I was going for. But, like, this is, like, it's got a functional game loop. It was my first Godot game. It works. It was made in a very limited time. Like, this, it did what I needed it to do, but it's not very fun. And, like, there's only, like, a single piece of music, and it's, like, 20 seconds, and I just loop it constantly. There's no, like, wait period. It just is constantly going, and it gets very repetitive very quickly. But, you know, like, such is life. Yeah. I'm gonna give this game probably, like, a C tier. Again, it's not very good, but as my first Godot game made in such a limited time, it's not that bad. Okay, and now we have Mysterious Mineshafts. This was made for, I believe, Metroidvania month, and I made it over, like, 2 weeks. I remember, like, tapping out at a certain point. Like, I didn't, like, fully go through the full month of it. And this game is surprisingly decent, actually. It's this, like, Game Boy style Metroidvania. I was planning to do another Gorefield game, but with Godot. That was, like, my main reason for switching, is I wanted to make another Gorefield, but better. So I was kind of prototyping the, like, Game Boy graphics, and I didn't have a sprite yet at this point, so these were made in MS Paint, and that's just really funny. But I think they're surprising. Like, the sprites are kind of decent. I think the run animation looks a bit goofy, but I think, like, the rock enemies and the background tiles, they look all right. They're not that bad. The level design here is honestly also pretty decent. I feel like I struggle with level design in, like, a lot of these games coming up, you'll see. But I think this one, the Metroidvania elements kind of work in, like, how the level is developed. The, like, main mechanic here is you have this, like, Boston Dynamics robot dog, which is what gets all the upgrades instead of you. Because when I was, like, prototyping enemies, I remember, like, having it, like, follow you, and I was like, oh my god, this is really cute. I want to make, like, a pet. So that's, like, what kind of the idea for the game evolved from. And I think it is a cool idea. I think when the robot teleports to you, when you, like, get too far away from it, especially when you have the bounce upgrade, which you can't, like, turn off, it does get a bit annoying. But I don't think the game lasts long enough for it to become too frustrating. I like again, like, the level design, little, like, secret, like, upgrades you can get are a nice touch. There's no audio, which feels very lazy and makes it feel, like, super eerie. Like, I know I was, like, kind of complaining about, like, the looped music, but at least that was, like, something in House Always Wins. This has just nothing in the background. The boss is just lame. The combat is a bit stiff. Like, it works, but it's not the greatest. And this game, again, it's all right. It's nothing to write home about, but it's not, like, terrible. And, you know, for the third time in a row, I hate to do it, but I think it's a C tier. I think this is probably better than House Always Wins. I don't think I quite, like, it doesn't have the sentimental value of the Scratch games, but it's functional, but I don't think it's, like, good enough to get, like, a B tier. And I know I keep doing C tiers, but I think that's just how these early games go, you know? And they will get better. Next up, we have Contamination Corporation. This was made for my English class, actually, I believe in high school, because we had to make, like, a piece of, like, satire. So I made this game as, like, you know, like a satirization of, like, kind of pollution. I just wanted to make a game. That's really all it came down to. And it's kind of a, like, cookie clicker type idle game, but it's not really great at that. The numbers are, like, just a little confusing. Like, I should have put, like, K instead of just putting a ton of zeros, because at a certain point you just lose track of, like, how many there are, and it's just kind of hard to read at a glance. Also, the costs of, like, the factories do not scale the more of them you buy, so it's kind of, like, very uninteractive in that way. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just, like, the game does not scale with, like, your power level, and it just kind of becomes way too easy to cheese way too quickly. There's also no, like, feedback for when you gain money. It's just all of a sudden, it's there. And once again, no audio. and I wasn't really super interested in making this game. Like, it was definitely a school project and just an excuse to work on a game while feeling like I was being productive, and it kind of feels like that. And it like the gameplay loop is not very well thought through. The graphics all right, but like there's no like background. Like, it's just the default Godot gray. There's no cool font, which kind of clashes with the pixel art. Like, it's just kind of lame. This game is lame, and I'm gonna give it a D tier for that. And now we're at Cold Wounds, which is probably the worst game I have ever made. And that is not an exaggeration. This is my least favorite thing on this list. I hate this game, and I regret making it. Alright? The idea itself is cool. It's a top-down survival horror game with a temperature mechanic, because it takes place in winter and in like a very cold area. And I think some of the mechanics would have worked in a better environment. Like, the temperature feels tense when you're having to go from building to building. There's a crafting system, which I think in a bigger game would have worked. But this was for a game jam. This game is not long. The crafting system is just overcomplicated. You should have just gotten like ammo from chests instead of having to make it. Especially since there's like no crafting tables in the map. And it wouldn't matter because this game is also super buggy. Like, at a certain point, I just couldn't open any menus at all. That includes the inventory and the crafting menu. So it's after that happens, you really can't play the game. If you reload while you have no ammo spare, instead of just not reloading, you'll just reload infinitely. And reloading slows you down. So it's just, if you run out of ammo, that's it. You can't move either. You can't move, you can't open menus. It's horrible. And even if the game did work properly, it is not fun. Even like when it is functioning, you move so slowly. Enemies also move so slowly. So it's not like you're in danger. Like, the combat is boring. The entire gameplay loop of you're dropped into an open area and you have to find 5 car parts is super lame because there is no map and there are like 4 tile types in the game. So nowhere looks different. It's just a bunch of areas that look identical and you can't tell where you are and you move around it so slowly. This game is horrible. Oh, and of course there's no sound effects like the previous few games. Because why would there be? Why would this horror game have sound design? I feel ashamed of this game. It is horrible. And I'm gonna give it an F tier. It is terrible. It is the worst thing I have made. I actually have more to add to this because the name is so cool. I am so proud of the name, and it is wasted on this game. And like the idea, like I said before, it's there. There are interesting ideas of mechanics, and if it was executed better, this might be one of the best games on the list, but it's not. It's not good, and it's really annoying because it is close, but it is not there. Finally, though, we get to a good game. A Shot in the Dark. This was made in the 1-bit game jam. I think it was like over like a week, maybe. And this game is cool. The 1-bit style, I think, works really well, especially with the camera flash mechanic, where it'll like light up for a bit, but since everything changes, it's always still 1-bit, even though I do work in multiple colors. And I think that aspect of it works well. I think it has very good ambience. It has sound design, finally, and I think I use it to great effect, where there's like sometimes like random noises that the enemies will make to add to the atmosphere. I think it could have maybe used some like background noise, but it's not a big deal. This game is kind of short, as with most of the things on this list. And again, like the horror elements, I think worked really well. I think the gameplay loop is like fully realized. You know, you have this like area to explore. It does like the Cold Wounds thing of you have to get items within an area, but because the level design here is so much better, it's not an absolute chore to do. And I think it works here where it didn't in Cold Wounds. For like, the mechanics here are simple, but I think it's all kind of polished and it works as a jam game. I think this is a fully realized jam game. There may not be room for it to grow outside of that, but I think for the goal I set for it, this accomplished it very well. I think this is a really good game, and I think this is the best Godot game up to this point. There's not much competition, but I like this game. This game is nice. I like it. I'm gonna give it A tier. I'm gonna give it an A tier, honestly. I like this game. All right, and next up we have Spectral Sword. This was my first 3D game. It was made for another like week-long game jam, and I did not know how to use Blender, and I decided that the day the jam started, like literally like 5 hours before, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna learn Blender, and I'm gonna make a 3D game for this. It was for the Gothic Horror Jam, so I decided to go for like a PS1 aesthetic, and I think for my first time 3D modeling, this is pretty solid. I think the graphics here are actually really good, especially like the texture work I did. I think it all kind of works, and the atmosphere is pretty good, especially with the background music I added, which was definitely missing from A Shot in the Dark. I think I brought that back, and it works well. I like it. The gameplay, there are a lot of like mechanics here, and I don't think they're horribly implemented. There's like, attacking, parrying, which will like charge up your next attack, which I think would be a lot more interesting, but it's just kind of, it's a bit slow, and not very satisfying. Like, there's no like lock-on mechanic for when you're attacking, so you just miss a lot of the time, and a lot of like the enemy like attack hitboxes sometimes are activated when they shouldn't be, so you get damaged a lot of the time when there's no like reason, and that part of it isn't fun. The level design here, I think, also kind of suffers. I do have like a wall run and a dash, but I don't really add areas to use those mechanics, and I think the game is worse off for that, and it just kind of feels like a long tutorial, which I think a lot of my games kind of suffer from, in that it's just a extended tutorial, and I don't really know what to do after I introduce the mechanics, and that is something I definitely need to work on, and I think this game suffers from that a lot. That being said, this is my first 3D game, and I do think it's a little fun. I'm going to give this a B tier. It has a lot of room for improvement, but I think for what it is fun, and I like it. And now we get to the real game. Gorefield Second Coming. The long-awaited sequel to Gorefield the game, which I'm sure so many people are totally waiting for. This game started development right after The House Always Wins. This was the second game I started in Godot, and it came out like 2 or 3 years after. It went through development hell. It took forever, and there was a lot of tech debt from me not understanding Godot when I first started. I think if I started this game later, it might have been done sooner, but like the technical aspects were like so, like, core systems were implemented so poorly that I spent so much time trying to fix it up, and by the time I like got to releasing it, it just felt like I was doing it to just get rid of it and be done with it. So with that being said, it sounds like I don't like this game. I think this might be the best game on the list, honestly. I remember not liking it when it released, but going back and replaying it, this is the best game I've made. There's a lot of content here. It's got more content than Gorefield 1. The map is bigger. There is less bosses, but I feel like they are better implemented. I think the final area especially is probably the most fun thing I have ever made. The hell area and then the Gorefield boss fight is absolute peak. Not to toot my own horn here, but like I thought that was the most fun thing probably on the list. I think in the mid game though, the difficulty suffers. It is way too easy in the middle when you've gotten upgrades and you just keep farming money and ammo. But I think when I get to the final area, I realized that's how the balancing was going, so I kind of accounted for that. But I think I should have done something towards the middle where maybe like higher level enemies will spawn after you've killed a certain number of bosses. And I think the game kind of needed that, but I did not want to work on it after a certain point. There are less bosses, the items are nowhere near, there's not as many items, and they're not as crazy, but I think this game does more with less. And I think it is better than Gorefield 1, despite having like less bosses, less items. I think I use them to greater effect here. And graphically, it is leaps and bounds better than Gorefield 1. It's actual pixel art instead of like the stupid filter I did before. The lighting is way better. The map is a lot more descript. Like with Gorefield 1, there was like no background tiles or like objects outside of just the basic walls, and I think the areas suffered for that, whereas Gorefield 2, you can tell where you are, which is such like a low bar to clear, but I think it adds way more to the ambience that Gorefield 1 did not have. This is top of S tier. This is the best game on this list. It's also the longest. It has the most content, and that I love this game. I despite it like taking so much out of me to make and kind of hating it, especially near the end, this playthrough kind of made me realize that I do like this game. And now we have Halo 2D. This is the first game that I made a video for on the channel. This was like made for the sake of being a YouTube video, which is what a lot of the games coming up are. I don't know why I said like almost, like it's all of them. All of them after this become for the express purpose of making a video. And this is the first of them, and I think it's pretty fun, especially after the updates I did with the second video with it. I think this is a really good translation of the Halo gameplay loop into a top-down fashion. I like the amount of content that's here. There's more than a few levels, which most of the games on this list do not have. This game has a lot of content. I think the gameplay loop is good. Shocker, I know Halo fan likes Halo game, but I think this game is good. I think this is also probably my best looking game on the list. I think the pixel art is well done. The effects I added after, like the increased contrast and saturation, really make the colors pop. And I think like the background elements I add, like the little like shields, UNSC banners, those kind of things, I think they really add to the setting. I think this is just a good game. And I am still working on it, actually. I have been working on that video where I'm going to add all of the Halo weapons to this game. I've been working on that for a little while. It's been very on and off. I'm up to Halo 4 now. Everything Halo 1 through Halo Reach, every weapon is in it. I'm working on the Halo 4 Promethean weapons now. And I think Infinite is going to take the longest amount of time. But I'm still working on that, and I do want to get that video out at some point. Overall, though, like, as it currently stands, this game is fun, especially after that update. Before the second video, like, where it was when I ended the first video, it was rough. The graphics were not great. There was not a lot to do. It suffered from, like, the extended tutorial problem as well. But I brought it back with the second video. The graphics got improved. I added more levels, more content. It was an all-around improvement, and I think this is a good game where it stands now, and I'm going to add more to it, and I think this is one of the better games on the list. I'm giving this top of A tier. I like this game. Again, shocker, I know, Halo fan likes Halo game. That if you're involved in the Halo community, you know that's actually like a bit rare at this point. Alright, and next up we have Deep Space. This was another Game Jam game, however, it was made for a YouTube video. And it's very Five Nights at Freddy's. This is like almost a straight up rip-off, but within like a sci-fi setting instead. But I do think the gameplay here does work very well. I think this is a fully realized game loop. I think this is kind of similar to a Shot in the Dark of this is good for a jam game, and it is like fully realized to that standard. Like everything works, and it feels like I explore the mechanics to their logical conclusion within like a limited time frame, and I don't think I could make more of this without adding more mechanics. I think the atmosphere, it's not as good as like a Spectral Sword or a Shot in the Dark, but I do think the ambience is pretty good. I think I could have used more background sound effects, because like when like the enemy will like knock on the vent occasionally, I think that works really well, and I think I could have used more sound effects like that to add to the tension. But I think where it stands, it is still pretty good, especially like the droning background, the like running out of oxygen sound effect. I think all of that kind of works. I do think it can be a bit boring though. Like just having to hold down a single button to repair a room, it takes a while, and it's not very interactive. It's just a bit boring, and I know like I went out with the idea of like solving like that problem of like waiting from Five Nights at Freddy's, but I did not go all the way with it, and I don't think it's as much of an improvement as I originally like wanted it to be. That being said though, like when you get like near the end and the enemy is like moving way quicker and you're like having to sort through like all the cameras, I think it does get a lot more fun near the end there. And like there's like a proper tutorial. It doesn't take too long, and I think this is a solid game, but I do think it is a bit boring. Like there's no like glaring issues, it's just not the most engaging, if you get what I mean. So I'm gonna give it maybe like top of B tier. I think it is like a lot better realized than like Spectral Sword, but I don't think it's as like interesting as some of the higher games. All right, and next up we have Blind Justice. This was basically my attempt at making a Daredevil game, and I think it's a bit mixed in terms of like my success with it. Like it's basically just a carbon copy of Spectral Sword, but it has like the added mechanics of like now you do like lock onto an enemy when you do the attack, so your hits are more consistent. The parries actually like work properly this time, and like enemy like attack hitboxes don't like randomly trigger. Like it is much more polished than Spectral Sword, but it's too slow. The gameplay is just not very fun, especially like there's no projectile enemies like in Spectral Sword, so it's just very kind of boring. The enemies take so long to attack and move, and your movement speed is slow, and it's the gameplay is just a more boring Spectral Sword. I think the visuals are ironically where this game shines the most. The idea of like having these sound pulses and like every sound effect illuminates the completely pitch black environment a bit, that works. That is a cool idea, but I think it is kind of held hostage by the gameplay, and I don't think I've used it to its full effect. I think I illuminate maybe too much with the sound pulses. So like when an enemy walks, you can see the whole enemy, whereas I think it should have been more like a feint, you see a bit of their feet, because as it stands, it's kind of you're just seeing normally for a lot of it, instead of like having to pay attention to the sound effects themselves. And I think that kind of suffers. The idea is cool and the mechanics are here, but I don't do enough with them, and I didn't fully realize what this game could and should have been, and I kind of want it to be better than it is. I think this game kind of needs like a second part similar to like Halo 2D to kind of put it back to where it needs to, or like not back, but like put it into what it needs to be to actually fully realize its ideas, instead of just kind of existing like it does now. And it's a cool idea, but it is just too boring to play, and I didn't really understand what about it worked, and I kind of made it something it wasn't meant to be. So I'm gonna give it top of C tier because it's a cool idea, like I keep saying. It really should be better than it is, and it kind of makes me a little sad thinking about it. And now we have Doom the Dark Ages Demake. This is, besides Gorefield 1, this is the most successful game on the list, which is a little upsetting considering it is just a straight up carbon copy of a game that already exists, but kind of just worse in every way. And I don't mean kind of, I mean drastically worse in every way, except for optimization. I built a new PC to play Doom the Dark Ages, and it still runs horribly. And I wish that game was optimized a bit better. That's besides the point. This game itself, it's fun for what it is. It's very short, but I do think like the movement feels good. The shooting is nice, especially since I've locked your like camera to only move along like one axis like the original Doom games, and I think that works to this game's benefit because it does feel very original Doom, and your movement speed is pretty fast, and the shield throw feels fun to use. Like I think the mechanics here are fun, and the game doesn't go on long enough to like see kind of where they're limited. I think the shield dash is a bit sluggish, and I think that could have been a bit better. But as it stands, the rest of it, it's fun enough. It's not even remotely close to like the actual game. I kind of was just basing it off trailers at the time. Like I hadn't played it yet, and like I have played Doom the Dark Ages now, so this game doesn't have as much novelty to me, especially since I made it out of spite. I was working on a different video. I tried to play Doom, it wouldn't run, so I was like, I know what I'm gonna do instead, and then I made this. And I think for that aspect it worked really well, but it's like that only does so much for me after a certain point. Like it's not the most fulfilling thing, so I'm gonna give it like middle of B tier. It is fun enough to play, but I don't think it does enough of its own stuff to kind of justify its existence a lot. And like it's just kind of there. Like it's fun enough, but it's not really anything special in my eyes. It's just it was a funny joke and not much more. And next up we have Halo X Doom. Funnily enough, this is pretty much just a combination of Doom Demake and Halo 2D, like the gameplay of Halo 2D getting ported into the style of Doom Demake, and I think for that it does do a bit more than Doom Demake did. In that, like, there's more going on. There's more of like an original idea there that I am satisfied with. I fixed up some of the visuals a bit. There's more content to it, but I don't know if it's still exactly what I wanted it to be. Like, I made this as a direct response to the success of the Doom video, and this didn't really do it for me after I did release it. I think it is definitely fun still. I think the two character idea of like Doomslayer, he has a dash and enemies drop health when killed, whereas Master Chief has like recharging shields. I think I could have altered their base stats a little bit more. I think Master Chief maybe should have been a bit slower. And I think the level design should have kind of complemented that, where it kind of just feels like you're playing the same character, but with a different health system. And I think they should have been more unique. The addition of new weapons, I think, was pretty good. The chain gun is really fun. The Unmaker, I thought was really fun. The BFG, just like a lot of the weapons. I think the pistol maybe could have been a bit better. The Halo Magnum was it was like meant to be a starter weapon in this game, but I do think overall the weapons are pretty good. The visuals are better. There's more enemy variety. There's more levels. It's basically just like a better Doom Demake, but I think because it's so similar, it's kind of hard to make it seem special, especially since Doom Demake by itself did not feel very special. So I have a very weird view on this game. Another thing is like enemies I feel like take too much knockback, and so you kind of just like send them away a lot, and it doesn't feel very fun. It also happens to you. I think the knockback should have used some work, and I think like the gameplay is here and it is fun, especially like at certain parts, but it's just kind of whatever. Like it functions, it's fine, it's fun enough, but I don't really care for it. And it's very similar to Doom Demake. I kind of view these games as kind of like pretty much the same. I'm gonna put Halo X Doom a bit higher because it is more original and it was more fulfilling as an idea, but it's not just the most interesting thing to me, and it's not the best game on this list, like by a mile. But it is still like fun at the end of the day. And now we have Superflight. Superflight is lazy. It's just it is a flight simulator that was meant to coincide with the Superman movie coming out, and I kind of really rushed it to meet that release date. Like, I was also working at the time, so I didn't have like much time. I still am working, but like I was working a lot more then than I am now. So I didn't like I was just rushing it out. I wanted to get something out the door, and it was kind of lazy, and it suffered from that. There's not much in terms of gameplay. It's just a basic flight simulator inside a 3D model of a map that I just took offline, or I took from online. It's fine. It functions. I think the like actual mechanics are kind of interesting on paper, but it's kind of unbalanced. That if you just do a double jump and dash and just keep recharging energy and doing that, you can go way quicker than doing anything else, but you can't really change directions that easily because I implemented like the directional flight. So you can kind of just go in one direction really fast, but you can't pivot from that at all. And it's not very fun because of that. There's also no audio, no like other effects to kind of like sell the impact of anything happening. So it kind of loses the speed factor. And this game was just lazy. That's all I can really describe it as. It was the bare minimum that I needed it to be for the sake of the video. And I'm not proud of it for that. I don't really like it that much. The draw distance is too low. And like it's not like broken, but it's not good either. And I think for that I'm gonna give it like top of D tier. Like there were at least ideas in the C tier that I liked. This is just it was an excuse for a video and nothing more. Alright, and last but not least, we have Blind Blade. This I made actually way before it actually released. Like, this predates anything from the YouTube channel in terms of like when it was finished even, but I just kind of forgot about it. So it released last because I remembered it and I was like, oh, I'll make a video about that. This is a game that can be played by blind people, and I think that is a really cool idea, and it works with that. Like, I've played it with and without visuals, and like even like turning the screen off and playing it like audio only, it's surprisingly functional that way. And I think I did a good job translating a lot of what you would have gotten with visuals into like audio cues. And I really like that part of it. I do think it is a bit boring though, because the entire gameplay is just either repetitive combat or walking straight forward in a hallway. And I think I needed some kind of other gameplay element, like a story, or like maybe like somehow like a scavenging system to make it more interesting, because it really is just walk forward, fight enemy, walk forward. That being said, I do really like the combat system here. I think within the constraints of having to have it operate solely on audio cues, this is a cool idea of an enemy will play a cue that they're going to attack, and then you have to time a block input. Like it's like a parry or something. And then you have to time your attacks to where like there's a sweet spot where you deal more damage. And I think that idea is cool, and I wish I kind of expanded it to be a lot faster, because it is a bit slow with the levels present here. There's like 3 levels, but it is still very short as a game. And I think it needed more in terms of gameplay. Especially, like, maybe just enemies with different sound effects as well could have fleshed out and, like, added more variety here, which it was, like, sorely needing. Other than that, I think the sound effects themselves, I could have chosen better ones. I think the ones I chose and, like, found online, which are credited in the game, I think I could have picked more fitting things for what I wanted to use them for. I think the sound quality for, like, what it's meant to be could have been a bit higher, although I think the actual, like, where I place them and what they are responses to do work well. Like, you know, you've got footstep sounds, wind when there's like an open hallway in like the direction of your ear, or like bumping into a wall so you know that you're not just gonna like keep walking forward. Like, I think all of that works well, and like the actual like design of when sound effects play is good, but the actual like quality of the sound effects used could have been better. This is a cool idea for a game, and I think I did execute it pretty well, but it's definitely, it needs more to it. Like, it's lacking in a lot of areas, but it's a very cool idea. I love the premise behind it, and I do think I execute it well enough that I would maybe even give it like a bottom of A tier, because it is very interesting in what I did with it, and like the combat is actually sick. Like, I really like the combat here, and the exploration, while there should be a lot more to it than what I added, it does function well enough that it doesn't hold the game back. And it is getting carried by the novelty of you can play this without sight. Like, the accessibility aspect of it, I'm really proud of, like, the idea behind it and how I executed a lot of the ideas. And these are the final rankings. Shocker, I know Gorefield 1 and 2, the games that I spent the most time on, are the highest on the list. Crazy how that works. And then the rest of the stuff, I'm pretty happy with where I have them ranked. A lot of the things are like A tier is like almost like fully realized ideas. You know, B tier is like games that are pretty good, but I don't feel like too special about them. C tier is like they're a bit rough around the edges. D tier, just not very fun. And then F tier, we have Cold Wounds. Yeah, like I said earlier in the video, if you want to check out any of these games or their videos, you know, that'll be linked in the description. And I do have some other stuff in the works, which I will get to at some point. But that's it for now. See ya.